TuneIn app. We are broadcasting live from the historic 1 Center Street building in beautiful Valparaiso, Indiana. The Bill and Callie Show is underwritten by Bill Moran and Callie Rosella. Now, here are Bill and Callie.
Welcome to the Bill and Kelly Show. I'm Bill Moran.
And I'm Callie Rosella.
With us today, we have two guests who happen to be in a play at Chicago Street Theater called Keely and Do. We have with us Lindsey and Lisa. Welcome to our show.
Hello. Thank you. Hi.
Why don't you start out by telling us a bit about yourselves and where you're from, where you went to school, and how you came to get into acting, and particularly on this play.
Sure. I'm Lindsey Elderkin. I've done a few shows at Chicago Street just within the last few years, but I went to school at Purdue University. I was actually, I majored in professional writing and visual communications. Really particularly doing theater is mostly a hobby for me. It just so happened that it sort of fell into something that I'm doing regularly now, but otherwise just hanging.
Let's see, I was born and raised in Chicago, got my undergraduate degree at Illinois State in theater, had a theater company in Chicago for 6 or 7 years. And when that ended in a divorce, I moved to New York and went to graduate school. So I received my MFA from the Actors Studio Drama School in New York. And I auditioned and was selected for life membership to the Actors Studio in 2000, and I taught in the program until it closed at the new school and was in transition before it reopened at Pace. And I moved back home. And in that interim, my entire family had left the Chicago area and moved into Northwest Indiana. So I ended up moving here, and I met Donna Blanchard, and I got involved at Chicago Street Theater and was very interested in starting an education program there. So I've been there 10 years as the director of education.
Fabulous.
Great. So tell us a bit about the play, Kelly and Do, and a bit about Keely and Do, sorry.
That's all right.
And tell us a little bit of just a storyline. We don't want to give the whole thing away, but just the gist of it. And go ahead and let us know what it's all about.
There's a lot involved.
You guys want to flip a coin?
Well, it's about two things. We could tell you the plot, and then we could tell you what we think it's really about.
Okay. Sounds good.
So the plot involves an underground Christian group that is very pro-life and has decided to take action by kidnapping 4 different women and trying to provide support for them to go through with having the child be born. I guess that would be it on the surface. We see the life of one of those women, which is Keely, and she is, quote, the rape victim. And they are particular about having chosen a rape victim because they feel that that's also a case where the child should be born. Is that good,
Yeah.
Lindsey?
Yeah. No.
And then what is it really about?
I mean, really, I think it's about the story of 2 women who come from completely different backgrounds, are isolated in a place where they have to find common ground. So the conversations lead into many different directions. And then ultimately a relationship is then cultivated between the 2 women. It's written so beautifully conversationally that I think a lot of people in the audience get to see like an actual, human relationship build. And then obviously without giving anything away about the ending, we get to formulate some of our own opinions about what the relationship really is at the end of the show.
So it really is about the relationship building between the 2 main characters and how the effect that the cause and effect that's had, right?
Yeah, despite the situation that they're both in, which is clearly, very dramatic. difficult, violent, I guess.
And I think in this political genre that we're in right now, that is so powerful. You know, how two people who are very, very different and have totally different viewpoints can learn to get along, you know, to build a relationship. You may not agree with everything everybody says, but yet you form a relationship.
I think that's what's been most profound for me about working on this play, is that I certainly have my own ideas and beliefs, which are very different from the character Do that I play. However, I think what it has reminded me of is that we need to remember how to dialogue as people, and that we have forgotten how to do that. We don't want to listen. We don't want to understand where someone is coming from or why they have that view. We just label them as being on a different side and therefore wrong and not worth it.
And we hide behind our phones and whatever else, and we can sit there and say anything we want to in the confines of our own little life, instead of actually being out there and having actual dialogue.
Somehow I think Do is, in my view, compassionate. I think she really cares deeply about Keely and her well-being. I think her beliefs help her to justify what she's doing, but then Do, I believe, changes throughout the course of it and starts to understand what Keely went through with her ex-husband. And although she believes that a connection between a mother and child is transforming and powerful, I think it's a metaphor, because I think Do looks at Keely as the daughter that she was not able to have, and it does transform her. And she begins to understand and see things, I think, differently. And when it comes right down to it, she sacrifices to make sure Keely will be okay.
Yeah, I think the play deals a lot with empathy too, and like how we can figure out how to empathize with people that come from different backgrounds. Keely particularly is very staunch in her opinions and convictions, and I found some really great moments within the show that I could empathize with Do, even though I'm very vocal about not being very sympathetic to her viewpoint. But it's for all characters, I think, in some way. Like even Andy Urschel, who plays Walter, like I even think there's a moment of like just patheticism, you know, with him. Like that we just sort of look at him and think like, I know this is really pathetic, and maybe one day, you know, he'll see the light.
Now he plays Walter, who is the leader of this group. He's a minister, I believe, and he's the kind of fanatic of everything.
Yeah, Nathan O'Brien plays Cole in it too. It's a fairly small role, but we've noticed now in the performances that I think when he walks out, people are very surprised.
Yes. Cole is the ex-husband.
Okay. Yeah.
That the group has found and worked with and tries to transform, which also brings up an interesting point, because you are taken through a journey while Cole talks to Keely, and you see, I think, and underneath the surface, that he's not really capable of true change. So it's also been interesting that the audience those that I've spoken with have talked about wanting to take a side one way or the other, and how wonderful it was for them that they were not able to do that. That what they really got out of the piece was that they had to look at all different sides and think about some things. And that's really, I think, a testament to the way Sherry Verwey, the director, has presented it. It could certainly be put forth in a way where it's very opinionated, And I do think she definitely has a hand in having a side as a director, but stepped back from that and is trying to present a piece where both sides are given a perspective.
Yeah, I remember reading in the article that was done that Sherry had seen this show 20 years ago and has wanted to be involved with it in some form or another. I think originally wanting to be in the show, but now that she's gotten more into directing and everything, knew that this was a show she really wanted to direct, and she was very passionate about it.
Yes.
And I think that's phenomenal.
Yes, I think that makes all the difference. She certainly has had the passion for the project and a need to direct it.
Which is
Now
also,
this-
sorry.
No, go ahead.
It was also interesting that, 20 years ago this play was being performed.
That's what I was going to say. It's hard to believe that in '93 this play was
Yeah, it
written.
was written
In
in
'94
93.
it won the American Theater Critics Association New Play Award.
Right.
And that Jane Martin is the person who wrote it. She's a Kentuckian, but nobody really knows who Jane Martin is, from what I understand, because that's her pen name.
Right. There's, it's often assumed that it is John Jory, who is
originally
artistic director. of
directed
the
it when it first
theater
came
at
out.
Louisville.
Yeah. Very interesting. Now, tell us who all is involved. Besides the two of you, we have Andy Urschel, we have Nathan O'Brien, and then Christine Long is playing like a prison guard or something like that in the show.
Yeah, she helps backstage.
So it's a very
as well.
small cast,
Yeah.
and it only takes place in like one location.
Primarily one location until the very, very end, yes.
And then it opened last weekend,
It did, yes.
and then people have an opportunity for 2 more weekends to see this amazing play and your amazing performances. I am so sad that I'm not going to be able to go see it because I'm going to be out of the country, but I want to tell people that they need to go see this show. It is such an important piece. It speaks from 20 years ago to now. It's still very
Relevant.
relevant to
yeah.
what's going on in the world. And you can see so many different, it's not just about what people will have a preconceived notion about what they think it is.
That's right. It is not just about that. I hope, really, I do. I hope they understand. Maybe it'll make them take a moment to think. We really need to learn how to dialogue again. We don't all have to agree. We don't all have to persuade. But I think we need to go back to the humanity of things and listen to each other. It's gotten, you can't even have a conversation when you're on opposite sides of an issue anymore.
Yeah, it's so polarized.
Yeah, and we become more and more as years go along. Just when we are supposed to advance as far as racism, dealing with political and social issues, we've gone back because the two sides seem to have gone further away than what this play speaks to. That's political understanding, not just political understanding, but social understanding, empathy, and understanding each other as human beings. Which I think is an awesome statement to send at any time. And I understand why this play is really held over the transition of time. I think it would be appropriate back in the 60s up till now and well into the future, because those are unfortunately our issues that our society are going to be challenged with until something major happens.
Yes.
So,
What brought you both to want to audition for this show? What was it about this show that interested you?
Me personally, I think the script reads more conversationally. It's not like a typical theater experience where I think a lot of people, think of musical theater where it's, sort of just sung at you. I think this particular show reads more like a movie. So if there's, hesitancy from people who aren't necessarily theater goers, I think this is like a great piece to come to if you're a movie connoisseur. The dialogue's really natural, wonderful. I mean, of course, when I found out Lisa was auditioning, I was excited. And then I've actually worked with Sherry before several years ago, and I had a wonderful experience with her. So I was encouraging of everyone to sort of audition for her because I think that she is very creative and artistic, and She is incredibly detail oriented to a point where it's like OCD, but in a good way.
Yes,
directors
OCD in a good
they
way.
need to be that way. It's just funny to me that she thinks of those, particular things where I'm so abstract and more of a bigger picture person. But I love that Chicago Street challenges theater goers with difficult material too.
Right.
This particular time slot that they have available, I always tend to gravitate towards it just because it's a different theatrical experience than you get to see regionally generally.
Right.
It's more of like black box theater stuff, which is just my preference.
Right.
So,
More intimate.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
So I've got a kind of an interesting question. I don't to take this out of place, but playing these roles and the interaction specifically between both your characters, has that changed you at all after going through rehearsal and going through the performance? Has it made you see things in maybe a different light that you wouldn't have before?
For me, it has definitely made me have a depth of understanding for Due's commitment and passion. Where she comes from, I believe, is a genuine place that is certainly surrounded by belief in the Bible and God, as opposed to, and this is easy for me to say because I'm not playing Walter, but as opposed to Walter, who also seems to be a bit self-serving, talking to Keely about you're going to be a famous American and the political outcome should this project be a success. So it's made me have a bit more compassion than I would have had before. I will arguably say that I may have had some bias, and I think that's opened up a bit, which is good. And then just, you talk to people who are in theater and who do plays, and they inevitably talk about the closeness of the cast. And I know that that's normal when you work that close together for such a long period of time. But being on the artistic committee and having talked to Sherry early on, she approached me and I had approached her and said, we're always looking for plays and pieces. And so we developed a relationship through that. And that was wonderful. And then I also directed the preview, our season preview. So that means that there are little snippets from each of the plays, and I have to try to solicit maybe 6 or 8 actors to put that on. And immediately when I thought of an actor to play Keely and other roles in the preview that would, be in that range, well, I thought of Lindsey. And so it's interesting because in the preview we were Keely and Due, and I'm grateful and lucky that then in the production that we are, because it's just it's a world of difference when you're working on stage with somebody who's open to looking at you and listening and interacting, and that you can trust, that you feel like, ugh, Lindsey, I missed that, and I know she's gonna pick it up, or she'll be open to, oh, that's different. I haven't seen you do that before, because I'm reacting differently because of something that she's doing differently. So
When you can trust each other.
Right.
That's such a gift.
yeah, absolutely. And of course I feel that way with Andy as well. I mean, it's a delight to be on stage with him, and I think Nathan's wonderful. We just don't have much interaction, his character and
Right.
mine at all, but
Yeah, I'm grateful for having a stage partner like Lisa. I mean, I've really never had a stage partner like Lisa who just kind of connects emotionally too. This is a very emotional show. It requires us to have real tears repeatedly throughout the show, and to sort of garner up that energy to do that. I think a lot of times it's just the connection that I have on stage with Lisa. I think it's just we're really in the moment. So that has been wonderful.
It's great when you almost forget who you are yourself because you become your character so much. And that's the whole goal of an actor, is to not be, to go there and see it. And I know both of you. And if I were to go see this show, it's always lovely when it's all of a sudden, I forget that it's Lisa and Lindsey, and I really believe it's Keely and Dew. You just totally forget who you're watching.
Yeah, I think in my approach anyway to playing roles, this one's been completely different because I haven't really worked on Keely externally on her own. I have discovered Keely through, Dew. I've discovered Dew through connecting with Keely and realizing I talk about having lost a child to heart surgery. And Keely asks me later, was that child a girl? Because I talk about all boys and how all boys in the house, it's noisy, and, I would have given my heart for a girl baby. And then all of a sudden I realized Keely becomes that daughter that I didn't have. And that connection, that's where Dew really came from then. And Dew tells stories that you don't think she would. She's had a life that's different than, all completely, she talks about having been set up with her husband and that didn't go so well. And that it wasn't until he found God that she really fell in love with him for different reasons. And she talks about having a life outside of the church, which I think is important too.
Now, I've heard that, I know it's a very complex show, and it can seem very heavy, but I hear that there are some lighter moments
Oh, yeah.
a little bit interspersed throughout, too. It's not just, you're going to leave there just,
Does Eddie Urschel ever appear in anything that doesn't have a lighter moment somewhere? In fact, do I guess right? Was he part of that, providing a lighter moment, or no?
He does. He provides a lighter moment.
Yeah, I would say Dew's character, actually, too. I was sort of surprised, at Friday's reaction, just because, we don't really get an audience until we open, generally.
Right, sure.
So, even us having to adapt to, laughter. Yeah. I was a little surprised just because, you're so in the moment with this very dramatic character. And then on Friday, they were laughing and enjoying themselves, and they're very enthralled with what's happening. But yeah, there was lots of laughter.
There is
Friday and
humor in
Saturday.
it, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because they're real people.
right. And there's humor in life.
There's
You can always find some humor somewhere in something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's humor in life. Dew finds a way to hide a 6-pack of beer in the washing machine so she can surprise Keely on her birthday.
I know.
Actually, really
it's also, getting out beer from it, it's funny.
But it is, yeah.
What type of beer was that?
Well, it's an awful, the only kind you can find that will twist off. So, because we can't use
It
an
wasn't
opener.
a craft beer then.
It was
Yeah.
not.
Yeah.
No.
Well, let's remind our audience how they can come and see this amazing performance. It is at the Chicago Street Theater, which is located at 154 West Chicago Street here in Valparaiso. And the shows are this coming Friday and Saturday at 8 o'clock.
Correct.
Next Friday and Saturday at 8 o'clock. It'll be this Sunday at 2:30. And next Thursday at 7:30.
Correct.
Which is fabulous. Lots of opportunities to go and see this wonderful show. And you can get tickets if you go to chicagostreet.org. There is a link there where you can get tickets online, or you can also call the box office, and that number is 219-464-1636, extension 1, and it is open Tuesday through Saturday, noon to 4.
Correct.
Yay.
You got it all.
I did my research. And then, on a lighter note, there's another show that'll be coming up after this one at Chicago Street Theater.
That's right.
And it's a comedy, a little bit of a farce called Boeing, directed by another couple of people who are amazing, Mary Bird Materne and Craig Golbeski. And it's about a Parisian named Bernard who has 3 fiancés.
Right.
who are all in the flight attendant business, and one from Germany, one from Italy, and one from America, and he's engaged all three of them, and comedy ensues.
So that's interesting. We go from a very
Exactly.
heavy, deep topic into a lighthearted comedy.
Because that's what theater is all about.
That is
hitting all
exactly.
those different emotions. And then tell us a little bit about the education programs that Chicago Street has.
Oh, I would love to. We have classes that run each semester. Right now, we're going to begin our spring semester on February 11th. We do have an open house on Saturday, February 2nd from 1 to 3. You could stop by Chicago Street Theater and you could get information about classes. You could meet the instructors. You could tour the facilities and find out if it's right for you or your teen or your child. We have classes that start from kindergarten all the way through high school. And I'm fortunate enough, when we hit high school, we have the only regional teen ensemble, and we have a level 1, which is 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, and we have 16 members, and then we have level 2, which is sophomore, junior, seniors, and we have 18. We put on a teen festival in May every year. And we try, it's really important to me to provide an arena for these teens to be in a play where they play roles where they're teenagers talking about issues that have to do with being a teen. And so the Teen Festival is really very, very unique, and it happens the first weekend in May, and it's just dynamic. The talent is overwhelming. So we have classes that'll begin in February, and I would welcome everybody to look on the webpage under the Education tab. It describes things in great detail.
Wonderful. And you have some amazing people who help out with those programs as well.
We absolutely do. We have several instructors that teach. Gina Zenowitz, Jenna Johnson. We have guest instructors that come in. Andy Urschel's teaching an advanced improv this winter camp. And we also have veterans that are around the theater that contribute, and we have a mentor program where students that don't want to be on stage, they could apprentice and learn to run lights and sound and stage manage and assistant direct, etc. So we have our veteran adults mentoring those teens or younger to do that kind of work as well.
Wonderful. Now, is there anything else you'd like to leave us with or talk about before we...
No, I mean, I just hope you guys come out and see a different theatrical experience like Keely and Do offers. Again, it's not like your typical musical theater experience. It reads more like a movie. We've had some really great reviews. A lot of people have written me directly, and I know they've written Sherry. I'm sure they've written you, of such a different type of theatrical experience. So yeah, never mind this stupid weather.
That's right.
I know it's going to be a little cold, but the theater's nice and warm.
That's
so.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
well,
you're
hopefully
surrounded by
that-
loving people at the theater, for sure.
Well, yeah, if it is cold, it may be a way to warm up, is sit inside and enjoy some great theater.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And if you are interested in getting involved in theater, you can always go to NIETF.org, and that's NIETF.org, and you can find out all about the amazing regional theaters that we have here in the area. I constantly tell people, if you want to see great theater, you don't have to drive all the way to Chicago to see it. There are so many talented, amazing people in Northwest Indiana, and we have 19 theaters that we have as part of the NIETF program, and so you can go there, you can see all the different theaters, what shows are going on. If you want to get involved, you can find out how to do auditions if you want to be on stage, and if not, contact your local theater if you want to be involved but you're too afraid to be on stage. Like she said, there's people who run lights and build sets and stage manage and help with costumes and everything else. So it's a wonderful family community. I have made some of the best friends of my life through the theater world, and I can't recommend it enough. You guys, thank you so much for coming out. This is such an important show, and we
Thanks very
really are
much.
happy to get the word out about it.
And we, at this time, would like to wish everyone a safe and hopefully warm, stay warm, because
Yes.
it's going to get cold out there, rest of the week and weekend. Kelly and I will be at Wild Rose Brewery tonight, talking to the folks from Planting Possibilities and talking about their program. So if you can make it out and share a beer with us and just sit down and listen to the show, we by all means welcome you. And until then, we'd like to thank our guest for being on our show today. And as they say in theater, break a leg.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Goodbye for now.
Bye, guys.
You have been listening to The Bill and Callie Show on WVLP LP 103.1 FM and streaming live at WVLP.org or on your TuneIn app. Broadcast live from the historic 1 Center Street building in beautiful Valparaiso, Indiana. The Bill and Callie Show is underwritten by Bill Moran and Callie Rosella. This show will be rebroadcast on Saturday at 6 p.m. on WVLP. The Bill and Callie Show podcast is available on iTunes and YouTube. Have a wonderful week. Bye for now.